the kid with like a piercing scream that's like running out of the church
could be a really good alternative for that type of situation.
It takes the drama out of the planning process.
Oh, for sure.
That can be a for sure. This is The Guide Gals, a modern, wedding-focused podcast by the experts at Here Comes the Guide. I'm Chelsea, a designer and inspired creative who's probably racked up over 4,000 hours on Pinterest, and the friend who's going to shoot it to you straight.
And I'm Caroline, a social media manager who is obsessed with dogs as ring bearers and will inevitably cry over your wedding video. We've seen it from all sides. We've been brides, planners, bridesmaids, and have worked with standout brands throughout the industry.
Think of us as an extension of your wedding party and hang out with us as we share the ins, outs, ups, and downs of the road to I Do.
Hey everyone! Welcome back to the podcast. We're excited for another episode today, full of what we're calling alternative wedding ideas.
Yes, so these are going to be things that you can do on your wedding day or for your wedding that are going to essentially break tradition, which we always think is a good thing, especially if it has some sort of personal meaning to you and your partner. I don't know. It's just always a good thing.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. This episode is chock full of ideas that I wish I would have incorporated. So I'm super excited for you all to hear everything we're going to talk about today. Before we jump into it, we have to talk about beverages of the day.
Yes, beverages of the day. I'm drinking coffee. It's like, I think that if we continue sharing our beverage of the day every episode, you're going to realize that I find something that I like and I stick with it for a period of time, and then all of a sudden I'll switch. So right now it's Maxwell House coffee grounds and Coffee Mate vanilla creamer, sometimes hazelnut, depends on how zesty I'm feeling that morning. But today it's vanilla.
Yeah, whereas I feel like I drink something different every day. Usually there's a version of coffee in there somewhere, whether that's like a latte, cold brew, just your normal cup of joe, something. But I've also been on a Celsius kick. I've also had like some iced tea, green tea, matcha. But today, it's just water out of my Stanley cup, which I put 3 large ice cubes in last night. They have melted. It's still cold, but there's just no ice in here anymore.
Fun fact, we all have the same Stanley cup that our amazing bosses bought for us. Mine is right over there. Mine is still intact. Fun story, if you want to call it that. The other day was getting in my car, and I carry that thing around everywhere. It's massive, though.
Yeah.
I think it's 40 ounces.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's like the big one, like, that you can get. But of course I was trying to get in my car. I had like so much stuff for no good reason, and I was loading up my car with stuff, and then I had put my Stanley cup on the roof of my car, and of course I like whipped out of the driveway with it still up there, and my car, it has like kind of like a hatchback situation. It was full of water, so it's like really heavy, and it like bounced down the back of my car. It was so loud, and it flew into the street. So my Stanley is still intact, for those wondering, but it's dented a little bit and it has a scratch, but I like it still, and I think it adds character.
Oh my gosh.
I drank out of it after that. I picked it up out of the road and it still had the water in it, and I was like, I drank it on my drive.
That's so impressive that it didn't like break completely. And that still had water in it.
Or shatter my like back windshield, because that's like what I thought was like it was gonna break the glass. Yeah, that's the first thing I checked. I was like, is there a crack? There was not.
Honestly.
Shout out to Stanley for making durable products. It is good.
Stanley,
locked and loaded.
We're not sponsored, but you want to send us those giant? They made like 64-ounce ones or something. Insane.
Oh, no, don't give me that. I'll take a small one. That'll break my wrist. I don't want that.
No, I
literally break my car. I can't.
My joke is when I look at the big Stanley, like the biggest Stanley size, is that I get arthritis just looking at it. That thing's huge.
I thought we had the biggest one. Like the 40 ounce I thought was the big one.
Even bigger. They made a ginormous one.
For who?
Yeah.
Like, who needs it?
Also, you're not going to fit that one in a like car cup holder, which I feel like is one of the main draws for me with Stanley, but
yeah, the bottom is skinnier, so it does fit in the cup holder.
Yeah, But I don't think this new
But
one
you can't really
does.
fit anything else.
That's true.
Oh,
Anyways, we digress about the
yeah.
Stanleys. Glad yours is alive and well, though.
It's fine. They're expensive. I'm not getting another one. That one's good. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Good luck, Caroline, with your 64-ounce one. I'm okay. Well, we are excited to talk to you about alternative wedding
Mhm.
ideas. This was a really fun one to put together. There's a lot of really interesting things. The first one that I want to talk about is to find an unconventional venue. So there's lots of possibilities when it comes to a venue being unconventional. My favorites are the places, though, that have some sort of special meaning to the couple.
Mm.
Some examples could include an art gallery or museum. These make for really, really pretty pictures. Maybe you
Yes.
guys had a date there at one point. Historic locations are really cool. Yachts, boats are also really cool.
Mhm.
Caroline, I didn't you get married at the place where you and your husband had said I love you or something for the first
Yeah,
time?
yeah. So we both worked at a summer camp, and there was this bench that like we sat at, and that's like kind of where we defined our relationship, told each other we liked each other, and that's like really where our relationship officially started. So yeah, it just luckily happened to be outside of like the camp chapel, so we got married there. But it was really like special, and I guess not a lot of people had actually gotten married there, but we did, and it was, yeah, I love the sentiment that it had.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, of course, you said there's a chapel, so
A
there's
little bit.
some tradition there
Yeah.
still, but still, just the fact that it's part of your love story before
Hmm.
your actual wedding day, I think is really cool. I've seen people get married at lots of unique spots, though, like tree houses, greenhouses. Those are really cool. Arboretums or botanical gardens are also so pretty.
Yeah.
Always beautiful choices. And then I really love those like adventurous nature settings as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something so like enchanting about getting married in the middle of the woods. I really love that. If you and your fiance are big sports fans, there's a lot of parks that you can get married at. Like I know you can get married at Fenway Park if you're Red Sox fans. I don't know. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I am a huge fan of just making your venue so unique to you. I've been to a couple at like art
Hmm.
museums, and I remember thinking like this fits them
That's
so
so
well,
cool.
and I just think it added to the overall
Hmm.
vibe because it just made so much sense.
I love that. I saw one photographer gallery at one point too, where a couple got married. It was a micro wedding, or maybe it was an elopement. I don't know. It was
Okay.
very small, but they got married in a bookstore. Just like
Oh,
really cool. Yeah, it was like an East Coast thing, so like really
oh, I
like
love that.
old, you know, like
All right, so alternative wedding idea number 2 is to throw a surprise wedding. Not a surprise for the couple, but a surprise for the guests. Basically, if you don't really want to make a big deal about your wedding day, you could plan your own shindig. Maybe say it's an engagement party. And then halfway through the party, you can say, hey, everybody, actually, we're getting married. And I've seen this done so well so many times. I think it's such a cool idea. And it's not for everybody, for sure. But if it's for you, I think it's so cool. I am a hoe for attention. So I would have loved to do something like this. Like, I love the idea of the surprise. It is a little showy, but it's like also very low key at the same time. Nobody has expectations walking into this except for maybe you and your partner. Like, no one
mhm.
knows going into this. Maybe you trust like one or two people to help you pull this off, or who are like, your wingmen in terms of, oh, this person's like, maybe I can't go. And then they're like, no, like, you should really come. And like, I don't know. Finding ways to make sure your people
Yeah.
are there, but also keeping it super low key. I also think this is a great idea in case you are somebody who thinks there might be potential drama during your wedding planning,
Yeah.
or just in throwing a wedding that someone might try and take over, or someone's going to be wanting to be the center of attention. You don't even give them a chance when you have a surprise wedding. Like, it's truthfully, everybody's so surprised, but everything is still, attention is on you. It's laid back, it's fun. You don't have to deal with wedding planning stress and drama in the same way. So yeah, I think it could be a really good alternative for that type of situation.
Yeah, it's a really unique. And when I first heard about this, I thought it was a surprise for the couple. Like, oh, you guys, this is your wedding. And I was like, well, that wouldn't work for like 100 reasons. But like the other way around, it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like with what you said, like to avoid drama,
Yeah.
I've heard lots of horror stories about the planning process where parents or in-laws want to be really controlling over the choices you make, even like down to the dress. I witnessed that before, and that's just like so sad and frustrating. But this is definitely for a spontaneous couple for sure. Probably not for everyone, like Caroline said, but if you are really spontaneous like that and you like things to be a little bit more casual, and if you want to be the center of attention, it's a good way to do it.
Yes. And, with a surprise wedding, you still might get some people afterwards who are like, well, why wasn't I invited? Or who might feel like, I don't know, I didn't get to do this thing that I wanted to do for your wedding day. Well, it doesn't matter because the day is about you anyways. So it may not be drama free, but I still think it's a great alternative.
It takes the drama out of the planning process.
Oh, for sure.
That can be a for sure. The next alternative wedding idea is to make it a weekend wedding. We've talked a lot about weekend weddings recently. A few episodes ago, we have an entire episode about weekend weddings, so we love them.
Yeah.
They're definitely trending right now in the wedding world, but it's for a good reason. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Weekend weddings are awesome. Basically, you can extend the celebration from one day or one evening to obviously a few days. You can start with a welcome party on Friday. You can go all the way till Sunday and have a goodbye brunch. We're huge fans of them. If you want to hear more about all of our thoughts and all of the details on planning a weekend wedding, you can listen to our episode number 5, I think it was.
Yes. And we talked for a long time
It's a
about
good one.
Yes.
We love them. They're super special, and it really, bottom line, makes for lasting memories and lots of quality time with friends and loved ones.
Yeah. Okay. Alternative wedding idea number 4 is to host a wedding brunch. I am all about a waffle wedding cake or like endless mimosas.
That's
Absolutely. So fun. And actually, for what we had planned for our wedding was to have breakfast for dinner. We love breakfast for dinner. It was definitely an alternative idea. Not many people do that. It was actually going to be cheaper in a way, so we were able to do more. So some of the things that we were going to do were, if you ever heard of grazing tables, they're like charcuterie boards on steroids. Like they are like so crazy. It's just like a whole table that's essentially become the charcuterie board itself. So we were going to have a pastry table. We were going to have a parfait table, I think, bagel bar, an assortment of quiches, meats, eggs, a juice bar, a crepe station where people would be making crepes in front of you, both savory and sweet, coffee, tea, bacon, of course. And if you've listened to our episodes before, you know that I was COVID bride. My wedding got canceled. And so that was like our big plan. And I still kind of wanted that element of it. And so as our backup date in July for our reception, we had planned a brunch reception. We still wanted to get married earlier, but we still wanted to celebrate with all of our people around breakfast items. And so we were like, let's do a brunch. And we had all of this planned, and that was canceled too. All this to say, though, I know, but I'm still such a lover of breakfast, brunch, the vibes. It is all so cool. So if that is something that you feel called to as well, like a breakfast brunch type of wedding, do it. I know it's totally not the norm, but I think it's so worth it.
It's really fun. I've actually never heard of any. I've heard of wedding brunches as more of like a farewell brunch as part of a weekend wedding, like I just mentioned, or as like a shower, like a bridal shower situation. But I've never heard of someone serving breakfast or doing a brunch for their actual wedding. So that's really cool. I love that, especially if you're a breakfast person or a morning person. I don't know.
Yes.
It's cool.
Yes.
It's unique. The next alternative wedding idea that I have for you is to elope. So elopements are actually trending in the wedding world right now as well. But Caroline and I were just talking about how the definition of elopement has kind of changed a little bit, or what people think of when they think of an elopement. So traditionally, An elopement was where a couple kind of snuck off and got married in secret without telling anybody or without having a bunch of people involved, invited, and really it was a spontaneous event. But when we think of the modern elopement or what people are doing in terms of that today, it's more of a micro wedding or a really small wedding with maybe like 20 or under guests, which I think is awesome. I love weddings with an intimate feel in general. So I love this sense of elopement. And we also want to stress that whatever your definition is of this or whatever you're picturing for your wedding
Yeah.
is great. You can do it however you want and you can call it whatever you want. Some of my favorite elopements are taking place in nature. I love when I see a couple getting married outside. It's my vibe for sure,
Yeah.
but I really love that. And it's the focus of an elopement or a really small, intimate celebration is about the love between the couples. So it kind of takes away a lot of the fluff and, you know, different things that can get really, I don't know, bigger and bigger and bigger and really extravagant. And it really just like brings it back down to like ground level so you can like really focus on what's important. Another benefit of elopements, besides the fact that we really like them, is that they can end up being a less expensive option. So, of course, your guest list is going to be smaller, so you won't need to accommodate as many people, meaning as many meals for your reception, gifting,
Right.
or like the space involved. It also opens up a lot more possibilities for the different places that you can have your wedding or some sort of
Yeah.
reception. Maybe you and your partner have a favorite restaurant. If you have 20 or less people, you can totally get married probably there. It's really just like a big family dinner.
Oh, I love that. I also love what you said about like it feeling almost like a family dinner because my friend had a almost like a destination slash elopement. It was very intimate, very small. And we did like rent, I guess, a side room of the restaurant, but it just felt like a family dinner and it was so cool to be a part of that. And like I felt so loved, I don't know, in a way of keeping it in that small, very intimate, but it's still fun with the destination and just, yeah, I think it was that familial feel to that day.
Yeah, I love when it feels when it has a more intimate feel. I think I'm just more drawn to that in general. There is of course a lot to say about a huge wedding celebration. They can be so cool, but you don't always get the same kind of warm fuzzies that you get from a
Yeah.
small tight-knit group.
Yes,
So,
agreed. So, alternative wedding idea number 6 is to wear what you want. I love fashion, love clothing, love things like that. And I really want everyone to, you know, stray away from the idea that brides wear white, grooms wear tuxes. Like, no, wear whatever you want. You could wear something from a romper to a kilt to a sequined jumpsuit. Truly whatever you want it to be. And also beyond just the day, go all out with your wedding wardrobe. I've seen so many different TikToks about like, here's everything I got for my wedding wardrobe. Super cool shoes, bags, hair accessories, things that I would have definitely gone all out with if I had actually thought about it a little bit more. And I wish I would have because it's so fun to be able to express your personality, who you are as a person, as a couple, and what you choose to wear. So I really think this is an area that you should feel like you can let loose. You can do whatever you want. If you want to change from a ceremony gown to a fun reception outfit, if you want that
yeah.
even to be like, I think one of my friends, she's a soccer player, or she was in college, and I'm pretty sure her like send off outfit was like like a white sweatsuit, and it looked so cool.
Oh, that's fun.
But it was like, I'm sure she was super comfortable after a night of dancing, and I feel like that really fit her personality. I loved that. And I think it was something that, again, if I can identify that it is so in line with who you are as a person, it only adds to it. No one was thinking like, oh, why is she wearing that? No, it was cool. So definitely feel like you have all the freedom to wear what you want, even down to wear patterns, wear sparkles, polka dots, florals, whatever it is, do it.
I also love the idea of wedding parties wearing something different. You can even ask your guests, if you put it on the invitation, to adhere to a certain color palette if you want to
Yeah.
get like really specific with that. I mean, of course, you might have guests, if you go that route, get annoyed maybe, but it ends up for really cool pictures if
Yes.
everyone is, matching. And I've seen where people have their wedding party wear white, which I think is so beautiful. You could even have your guests wear white or black and white. It's really cool. Yeah, there's a
So
lot you
cool.
can do with clothing for your wedding.
Yes.
And
Not even
yeah,
like,
I say go all out.
yeah, not even with your clothing. If you want to have a say in everyone's, do it.
The next one that I have for you is to offer a new take on the wedding cake or incorporate some fun snacks. A few episodes ago, we talked about the Pittsburgh cookie table. Caroline introduced this to me, and honestly, I haven't really stopped thinking about it. I thought it was such a cool idea. It really relates to like the grazing board situation
True.
that you talked about earlier. A little bit different, but I love how the cookie table felt so personal. It felt like Christmas cookies to me. I mentioned that. I love it. And there's lots of fun things you can do with this. So we also, when we talked about the Pittsburgh cookie table, we said that you don't necessarily have to have, if you have a cookie table or cookies, you don't have to get away with the cake. You can totally do both. You can also incorporate fun snacks. So this could mean a late night snack. Maybe you have that catered from your favorite fast food restaurant, or you can bring on food trucks, popcorn, whatever it might be. This, of course, is your day. So you want it to be fun for you and exactly what you want, but you do want your guests to have a good time. And a surefire way for them to have a good time is to feed them a lot and make it good food. Like, people will remember and talk about good food if a wedding has it. So,
Yes. I've
yes.
never said no to a good snack. I've known weddings that have just, in the middle of dancing, have just been like, hey, we got French fries. And everyone is all about that. Like,
Yeah. That's great.
I'm into it.
Yeah. And I've also, on the other end of that, been to so many weddings where I'm hungry. like I'm just hungry. And maybe there is, after the ceremony, some sort of like snacky cocktail hour thing, but I'm like, oh, when's dinner? I am always hungry. So incorporating snacks really will be such a crowd pleaser
Yes.
for everybody involved. Yes. If you have good snacks, invite me to your wedding. I'll be there.
Oh,
for
I will
sure.
be there. And this isn't like to scare you, but make sure you have enough food at your wedding, because my friends and I all went to the same wedding and they didn't have food before dinner. Like, there was no cocktail hour, there was no snacks. And all of my friends' husbands, partners, even some of my friends were like, that's the worst wedding we've ever been to. And I think a lot of it had to do with...
But it's just because you're hungry.
And I think they were just hangry. Like, I ultimately think they were just hangry. And not because they didn't love the people and didn't want to be there, but they were just like, yeah, food is important. Feed your people.
Yeah. And I mean, if snacks aren't something that necessarily speaks for you, once again, or speaks to you, you can do whatever you want. It is your wedding after all. And so take everything we say with a grain of salt and go your way when it comes to planning. But we're fans of snacks, and I think most people are. So something to think about.
Yeah. We sound very food motivated.
I haven't eaten yet this morning, so maybe I'm hungry.
Maybe that's why. All right, another alternative wedding idea for you is to rethink the traditional children's roles. Now, we think of flower girls, we think of ring bearers, but we don't have to think about them in the way that we always have. And I think that's actually a really great thing. Now, you could toss this out entirely. You don't have to have this role whatsoever. But I think it's super fun when we even think about it, even from a very, very different lens. Have a confetti man come down the aisle. Have your pets be the ring bearers. Have your grandma throw flower petals. There's so many ways that you can do this in a way that is fun. And I actually think it helps everyone laugh, breathe a little bit before you walk down the aisle, or if there are any jitters of people, even within the guest list. Like, it's just so fun to start off everything that way. It sets the tone for like, hey, this isn't like this, like, I don't know, super traditional event, and maybe you want that and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But if you want things to feel a little bit more laid back or just have that moment of like where you breathe for a second, I think that's really great, because this is an experience that people will remember, they'll laugh about, they'll I don't know, really enjoy. Everyone, even down to the person who is potentially throwing those flower petals, or your pets running down the aisle, whatever that may be.
Yeah, they don't have to be kids. Like, there's no reason that you necessarily need to, unless you want to.
Yeah.
But you don't have to ask your distant cousin's like daughter to be in your wedding if you don't if you don't know her, maybe you're not close with them. You don't need to do that. Maybe you have adult children and you're getting married and you want your 25-year-old son to be the flower man. Like, that's so funny. It'd be so fun.
So funny. I know.
So, and you can create your own roles. They don't have, it doesn't, once again, this episode is all about breaking tradition. So do whatever you want.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can make it up as you go.
Make a grown man dance down the aisle, and that'd be great. Yeah. Also, if you think about children's roles from when like children actually are in those specific roles, they can go so poorly. Like, I've seen kids kicking and screaming down the aisle. I've seen kids hiding. There are the ones who like really cheese it up, and like those moments are so amazing. I've seen like, I think a ring bearer who like saw his mom and like started crying because she looked so beautiful. Like, there's like a range of things that can go on from cute to chaotic. Like I said before, I was a hoe for attention, and that stemmed from even like a very young age. My sister and I were flower girls for my aunt's wedding, and we're walking down the aisle doing our thing. But in my mind, my sister was taking too big of handfuls of the flower petals and wasn't leaving enough for me. So I stopped her halfway down the aisle, stuck my tongue out at her to tell her, like, stop, I want to be taking it. Everyone starts laughing. To this day, everyone remembers it. It's actually, I think, one of my first like vivid memories, because I like had such strong feelings about this. And then of course we've been talking about it since then. Anyways, if you don't want to have those dramatic moments with children like me, rethinking it could be a great thing. Or if you just want to run with it and let the drama queens.
Your example's kind of cute and funny, where like people would laugh and it would lighten the mood, and that's great. But the kid with like a piercing scream that's like running out of the church is like not, or like out of the ceremony, wherever you happen to be, that's like not really enjoyable. It's kind of like it's kind of a downer. And I just like think back to that episode of The Office where it like flashes back to young Michael Scott peeing his pants at his mother's wedding. Not good. Like not a mood lightener at all.
So it could really be a great idea to rethink these roles, even from that standpoint.
Okay, this is one of my favorite ones, and it is to switch up the guest book. So this is another area where you can add a lot of fun and personality into it, and you can also end up with a keepsake that you might actually want to display or look back on. Not that you would ever throw away a traditional guest book, but I bet there's so many people that have never really even looked through their guest book from their wedding, and it probably just sits in storage because you don't want to throw it away, but where are you really gonna put it?
Right.
So I'll just go ahead and name a few ideas in this category that I've really loved. I've seen people sign record players and vinyls, so you can display these as decorations. You could even use it, which is really cool, the record player. I've seen people do a Polaroid guest book. We talked about this. I know Caroline did something with, she had a Polaroid printer so people could take their digital images and have them printed to look like a Polaroid, which makes a really neat guest book, I guess, visual guest book to look through. It would serve as like a photo album, which you could totally display in your home. I've seen people fill out little slips of paper or even a notebook with pieces of marriage advice that they want to give to the couple, which is really fun. You would probably end up with a really wide range of responses here, from like really genuine advice or like a joke that your unmarried friend writes in there, which both I think are totally worth your time reading. You could also have guests sign a coffee table book. I really love this one. Bonus points if the coffee table book has some sort of personal meaning to you. Like maybe there's one that is a bunch of national parks, pictures of national parks, and maybe you guys have gone to a bunch of them or have the goal of going to more. And you could have your guests write little messages and sign that as if it was a traditional guest book, and it can sit out on your coffee table and be a really beautiful
Yeah.
memento piece of decoration for your home. Um,
I love that one.
and then one last super special one as well. I've seen people have a phone where your guests can leave a voicemail on there,
Yeah.
like a little note to you. And that's really cool too. I don't know who's making those, but I know there's a company of some kind that like
Yeah.
makes something like that. It's probably wedding specific, but I've seen it and that's really neat.
Oh, it's so cool. I love it. So our next alternative idea is to take a later moon. I know we've talked about my experience a lot. We did take a later moon, and that's like, I said that's so weird. Later moon. Really?
Good night, moon.
Good night, moon. This is really why I picked it though, because I had such a great experience with this, and I do think this is kind of where things are trending, and I totally understand why. So it used to be that you'd get married, and then I've heard so many stories of like, yep, we got up at 6 a.m. the next day or earlier. Like we had to get up at 3 a.m. to make our 6 a.m. flight so we could make it to the Keys on time. Like it's just crazy how fast these things happen right after your wedding, and I don't even know if I'd be able to enjoy it fully, going from the stress of like that whole week leading up to the wedding weekend itself, and then having to like immediately jet off, like make sure all your bags are packed and someone's taking care of your house or whatever it is. Like
So
there's just
much to think about.
And you've just spent so much
Single
money.
day weddings are the money, every piece of it, like the sanity, like I don't know.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
a lot.
That's why I really do think this is a great alternative that everyone can do, that maybe breaks the status quo, but maybe this is a status quo that needs to be broken. Like this one, we take a honeymoon when you have ample time, have been able to, recover, put a little bit more thoughtful planning into it. So we took our honeymoon a year later. We went to Hawaii, and it was so fun because we actually got to like celebrate a year of marriage. We knew what that looked like. We knew what it felt like to, I don't know, be in that state. And then now we were getting to celebrate it in a different way other than like right after your wedding. But we did take a mini moon that weekend after our wedding. We did have a couple of nights where we went away, just in like our local area. So we still kind of did the best of both worlds, and that is something I would recommend. Like still have some sort of getaway after your wedding, so nobody talks to you, you just enjoy it. So you still have that like, don't talk to me, I'm out of here, we're enjoying being married. But then take a bigger honeymoon later, and I think, I don't know, I would highly recommend.
Yeah, that's a good plan. And it's likely that you're staying somewhere besides home on your wedding night anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe just extend that, like Caroline said, like an extra day or two, just to have some personal space and time to do nothing. Also, maybe you do have an unlimited budget and that's fantastic for you, but most people don't, including me. So if you have your actual full-fledged honeymoon a couple months or even a year later, you'll have lots more budget to be able to put into that, and then you can actually do exactly what you want to do. You won't have to skimp on it because you want to make sure that you're putting enough into your wedding to have it the way that you want as well. Divide and conquer.
Yeah, seriously.
It's great. The last one that I have for you is to forego the wedding party entirely. So if the thought of wedding party attire, the logistics of planning it, or the drama of who is going to be the maid of honor, or who is going to make the cut for your bridesmaids list or groomsmen, whatever. If that sounds like a nightmare to you, which it totally can be, you don't have to assign these roles in a traditional way at all. You can have, or if you want to have bridesmen or grooms ladies, however you want to title it, you can do that too. You can really do whatever you want. This also doesn't mean that you won't have like a special table at your wedding where you might have your closest friends sitting with you. You can still have that. You can still have bachelorette parties. You just don't necessarily need to create some sort of like hierarchy with your friends if you see it being a problem. You could also just have a group of bridesmaids or groomsmen without there being a person of honor, a best man, a maid of honor. You could have your dogs be your best pup or dog of honor, whatever.
Love that. I mean, you guys may have heard already, we are dog moms. I also have cats. You may see them in some of our episodes if you watch on YouTube. But I could go on and on about how I love all of these alternative pet ideas. So if you guys ever want an episode from us where we talk about those things, we would happily do it.
Yes. Yeah, I could talk about my pets all day long. So.
And my last alternative wedding idea for you is to throw your kind of party. This is really the summary. Like, that is the main idea of what we're talking about in this episode. But I think down to like creating the atmosphere and type of party that you want, that you feel best in, that really reflects you and your partner best. So yes, we talked about elements of that, but from like, if you take a step back and look at the full picture, throw your kind of party. My friend Mary has always wanted a backyard barbecue. Super simple, very laid back, down to like what people wear. Like, she's like, you could wear jeans to my wedding. I don't care what you wear. Just show up and hang out with us because that's what's important. Another friend always wanted a brunch style wedding with less of the emphasis being on like dancing the night away and more of just like, let's spend time together because that's what I love and that's what's important to me. So no matter what it looks like, don't be afraid to ditch the norm and do what feels right for you, because ultimately that's going to be the best kind of party. And if it does look different from what everyone else is doing, good. You're probably on the right track, and that's
good. Yeah, of course, if you want to go the traditional route, you do you, but leaning into what feels right and comfortable and personal, we always think is better.
Yes. So, which is why we wanted to chat about this with you today, because there are so many different ideas on things that you can do. And actually, we only chatted about 12 of them, but we have an article, 26 ideas, all of these different alternative ideas that we talked about, plus a couple more. So definitely check those out if you're interested in any of the ones we talked about today. If you want to take that a step further or want to continue getting inspiration, you can go to Here Comes the Guide for that. And I believe we'll have it linked in our information below so that you have easy access to it.
Yes, we will have that linked for you. Thanks for hanging out with us. We love talking about weddings, and this was a really fun one to talk about. Good luck with your planning. If you and your partner do decide to try any of these alternative wedding ideas, or if you come up with any unique ones that you guys do, please share them with us. We'd love to see. We'd love to share them with the rest of our audience as well. So reach out to us on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram at the Guide Gals Podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can watch us there at the Here Comes the Guide YouTube channel. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts as the Guide Gals Podcast. You can also visit our website where we have lots of resources for you, our full episode library, and of course, show notes for every episode with lots more details on that page if you need to reference anything. Our website is theguidegalspodcast.com. And if you want to chat with us, you have episode suggestions, questions, or you just want to say hi, you can totally reach out to us there. We have a contact page where you can reach out, or you can connect with us on Instagram, where we also show lots of behind the scenes stuff.
We seriously love chatting with you guys. Please take Chelsea up on all of the things that she just mentioned. Come see the behind the scenes, the silly things we do. Sometimes we tell side stories that don't always ultimately make it into the podcast episodes, but we may share some more there, so you'll definitely want to check it out. All right, guys. It's been so fun chatting. Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
This really is the adults that become.